Hi, welcome back to another episode of Nobody's Doing It Right, the podcast for those who are uncertain. My name is Kat, I'm your host. For today's episode, we're going to talk about how the answer is where the flow is. Now, this is something that I have to remind myself of often because I am an overthinker. I am a perfectionist, I'm a people pleaser, I always worry about doing the wrong thing all the time. I'm obviously getting better at it as the years progress, but I also want to have everything figured out immediately, right? I want certainty all the time. And I know a lot of people who listen to me and follow me online, they're the same way, right? We want certainty. We want to know everything immediately. We want to know how things end from the beginning. And because of that, I think we try to force answers. We try to force ourselves to find the answers that are going to make us feel relieved, that are going to soothe us, to make us feel okay enough to live life and do the things we want to do. One thing I really had to internalize and remind myself of over and over again is that the answer I'm looking for is in flow. There is no answer I'm going to find outside of my flow state. And what I mean by flow, because obviously this is just my own perspective and what I believe, and I'm not a therapist, this is just what's worked for me, but flow for me is what I feel like when I am just allowing myself to follow my stream of normal. And I know that sounds so confusing, but if I were to let go of expectations, if I were to let go of what people expect me to do, want me to do, what they think is valid for me to do, I think we harbor a lot of that stuff within ourselves, right? Now, this isn't to say that there aren't things in life you have to do and jobs you have to work and all, of course, right? So there are responsibilities you have regardless. I just mean if you were to strip away all the things that you are putting force on yourself, pressure on yourself to do because of what you think society wants from you, your family, whoever. If we were to put those things aside for a second and you were to just step out into the world and do what you naturally felt like you were gravitating towards, you let that gravitational force pull you in whatever direction would be normal and natural for you, outside of, the stresses, the shame, the guilt, whatever that's constantly circulating in your mind. That's your flow right there. That pull, that whatever you do when you let yourself go and you're pulled that direction, that's your flow. And that's where the answers are that you're looking for. So if you're in a moment where you feel like you're in crisis right now and you're like, I need to figure out what I'm going to do. What am I going to do? Like, I need the answer. I need to find this out. And you sit and try to calculate or problem solve or whatever and put it into action and understand. Most likely, the answer you're looking for is not going to come out of you forcing it, out of you writing out an equation for it or reading a lot or, whatever you go to when it comes to trying to solve something, especially out of a place of panic, because that's really where I'm coming from right now. That's not where the answer is. The answer you're looking for is always in your flow. So, as an example, if you are struggling with the idea of work, right? You need to get a new job or you're struggling in your current job and you need to find something different. Maybe you're trying to pivot into a creative career, take your creative work into, a job, whatever. You're in a state right now where you're like, I need to figure this out. I need to get it together. I need to understand what's going to be right for me, what's going to solve things, what's going to, propel me into a future that's good for me, whatever. I need to figure it out. I need money. I need answers. I need solutions. And you're here in a place of panic and you're trying to figure that out right now. You might then start trying to apply for jobs that might not be at all aligned with you, but because you're operating from a place of panic, you're signing up or applying to things that are maybe quicker because you need it right now and you need to feel satisfied and certain and at least you have something, whatever. But realistically, if you are applying to things that might not be aligned with you but are quick and easy, those probably won't be sustainable long term. So you'll be back in this place again anyway. Instead, if you were to let go of all that shame, that toxic guilt, the feeling like I need to figure this out right now, while still obviously balancing the need for responsibility, because of course we do, we have these responsibilities no matter what. If you were to let go of all that and instead follow what you were naturally being pulled to, you allowed yourself to tap into your natural skills, your natural qualities, your natural abilities, your natural interests, and not shame yourself for that, because I think we do get shamed for that. We shame ourselves for that, but probably because we were shamed at some point for that. If you were to let yourself fall into that, it would probably guide you to exactly where you need to be, because you're not holding yourself back from allowing space for both, your alignment, your interests, your skills, your abilities, and your responsibilities, which you have to do because life has responsibilities, you would probably end up in a place that is much more in tune with who you are and gives you the exact answer you need. Now, I can't tell you what that is, obviously. All I can say is that typically, not always, of course, and I'm not a psychic or a mind reader, just from my own experience, typically every answer I've ever needed that I've been trying to get and striving for and trying to overthinking and having sleepless nights about has always come to me from a place of flow. The moment I allow myself to let go, to relax a little bit, just a little bit even, to release the shame, the guilt, the embarrassment, having to admit, that I don't know, the ego, all that, and still understood that, okay, but I need this because it's important in this regard of my life. It's when I've done that and I've allowed myself to be pulled, okay, what would I naturally do in this moment? If I were to just let go right now, where does my compass point, right? Where am I being pulled? What direction? What would naturally pull me towards it? That's the answer right there. Whatever your emotional compass is pulling you towards, that's your answer right there. And I know it sounds almost simplistic. It sounds almost too good to be true, but I think we just have more internal knowledge than we think we do, especially those of us who are overthinkers. Those of us who are overthinkers cloud our judgment. We chip away at our self-trust. We drown out our intuition, even though we have it. It's there. It's just that we don't trust ourselves enough to believe that it's right for us. So it's really important to practice finding your flow, understanding what your flow is. And I think it's also important to separate your struggle mentality from this, because those of us who have a struggle mentality believe that we can only get what we want. We can only get the answers we're seeking through struggle, through force, through trying to make it happen, to figuring it out. But finding flow is the opposite of struggle. You have to let yourself go. You have to let yourself be taken. You don't fight for it, in a sense. So it's important to work on your struggle mentality if you notice that you have one, because that's probably also inhibiting your ability to find your flow. Where's your compass pointing? What direction do you feel drawn to right now if you were to let go of all the shame, guilt, whatever toxic emotions, behaviors, whatever? Where would you naturally be pulled? If you're in a river, lying on your back, letting it take you, what direction would it go in? That's your answer right there. And now that doesn't mean it's going to be 100% right, that's going to work out perfectly, that there are going to be no issues or struggles or effort. Of course, there's always going to be effort. Everything in life requires effort. But the point is we want aligned effort. We want effort that at least makes sense for us, that is worth it. We want to get to an outcome that is worth the effort we've put in. Because of course, you can decide to do something different, decide to do something that's not necessarily natural for you or aligned with your interests and skills and whatever. There's nothing, you can do that. You can do whatever you want. But maybe the effort you put into something like that is not going to be worth the outcome, because you're going to end up in a life that might not be at all what you wanted. So, and now you have to sustain that. Most likely it's probably not sustainable for you. So the reason to instead look for your answers in flow is because we want it to be sustainable as well. We want it to be aligned with you and sustainable long term, so that you don't get to a place where you feel like, oh, this is completely wrong and I have to start from ground zero again. And then, the shame kicks in again, the guilt kicks in, self-sabotage, all that stuff. So if you are struggling with something right now and you need an answer and I need to figure it out immediately and I need to know and I need to be certain, first of all, let go of certainty, let go of the concept of relief, because I don't think those really ultimately exist. We won't know for sure. We can never know 100% of the time. The only thing you can know, the only thing you can trust is yourself, because you're the only thing you truly have ultimately, right? And I don't mean that in a depressing way. I mean that in a very liberating way. So if you're in a moment right now where you're like, I need to know immediately, I need to have my answers, how do I figure this out? Like trying to problem solve, trying to have the equation running through your mind of what you need to do and looking at other people and what they did and how to do it like them. Let go of that, quiet your mind a little bit and let yourself think about what would naturally happen right now. What would you naturally be pulled to if none of that was involved? If there was no pressure in that way, if there was no, shame, guilt, nobody was judging you, but you still had responsibilities to take care of, what would your natural next step be? That's your flow. That's your answer right there. And I know it's easier said than done. It's a matter of practice, I think, especially when it comes to intuition. And everybody's idea of intuition is different. Everybody's belief in terms of intuition is different, of course. I like to think that I have a very strong intuition. Anytime I've had a gut instinct about anything, it's usually been correct. But a lot of the time, because I'm an overthinker, I override that instinct and I end up in places where I'm just not aligned, and then it kind of chips away more at that self-trust and ruins my ability to listen to my intuition more. So as I move forward, I try my best to listen to my intuitive nudges and to follow my flow. Of course, life throws you curveballs all the time. Things happen in life that are shitty and uncomfortable and out of your control, and you have to pivot and you have to make decisions in that way. So nothing's going to be perfect. Nothing's going to flow seamlessly all the time. That's just life. But I think it's just worth it to try and understand where your flow is, where your compass is pointing, and know that that's probably the most aligned, authentic answer for you. That the answer you're looking for is not going to lie anywhere outside of yourself, because you are what you have. You are your main tool in a sense. So use it. Use yourself in that way. Don't worry about other people all the time necessarily. Don't stress yourself out because if they did this and it worked for them that way, so I should do that too. Yeah, take advice, take people's opinions, sure. But ultimately, I do think there has to be a level of trust in yourself and believing that what you're being called to is right for you, and that's okay. So I hope this was helpful. I hope it was informative. I hope it gave you a different perspective on intuition and flow. If you want to talk about these things in more detail, I offer one-to-one calls. I have email guidance. I also have a Substack where I write about these topics. And you can follow my other social media accounts for the rest of my content. Other than that, thank you for listening, and I'll be back again soon with another episode.